Hi, students. It's good to see you. Here's the second part of our Alaska, Vancouver slides. So hang on with me. Let me see if I can pull them up. You know, it takes me a minute. I hope you're doing well. I think you'll like these slides. We're going to go somewhere special. All right, hang on. Let me put it into slideshow. All right, so here we go. We are in Fairbanks, Alaska. That is like almost the center of mainland Alaska. And we are going to take off in this guy's airplane. He is right here. This is his airplane. And these are my friends who went with us. This is my husband. They're both pilots, and I am, of course. And then my husband is not a pilot, but he is a sailor. So he's great with navigation. And so we are going to fly with this guy because he's local, and he's going to take us all the way up to Prudhoe Bay, which is above the Arctic Circle on the very northern coast of Alaska. All right, let's go. Since we're going to go up there, we're going to go up to see what the workers do up there, you know, that work up there in the oil drilling. The oil drilling that's up in this area is right next to the Arctic Wildlife Reserve. And so you've got environmentalists and you've got oil, big oil companies right next to each other. That's why I wanted to go. I wanted to see, what is this like? How do they work together, or do they work together? How do they get along and that kind of thing? Well, since we're going to fly up there and stay up there, they decided that we would take fresh fruits and vegetables with us for the people who work up there, because that's one thing, they can't grow anything, right? They're in the tundra region. So we are ready to take off. And every once in a while, maybe wherever you've flown, you see signs like this that de-ice. Well, they're very common up here because two things: you've got freezing temperatures and you've got visible moisture. Anytime you see clouds or fog, that's visible moisture. So when you have that and cold temperatures, you can get ice on the wings or actually any part of the airplane itself, but especially dangerous are the wings. Because what happens is that disrupts the very smooth flow of air over your wings, which forms low pressure and pulls you up and helps you fly and all of that. If it's not smooth, you may get off the ground, but then you may crash. All right, anyway, so you want to de-ice before you fly in this area especially. All right, so we've taken off. It's about a 3-hour flight out of Fairbanks up to the northern coast. Right here, we're seeing different mountains that are peeking through the clouds. And it's a beautiful sight, white on top of white on top of white. This, I think, is the Brooks Range up there. Again, this is one of my favorite pictures just because of the layers of clouds and mountains and more clouds and more mountains. Just spectacular. But after a couple of hours, you really are anxious to land. And so when you see this runway, you're excited about it, but look where we are. We look like we're on the moon or somewhere, don't we? First thing I noticed, there's no trees. So we're in the tundra region. Makes sense. Look at these big ponds. These are ponds of water. And these ponds of water have nowhere to go. It's too cold to evaporate, but it's also frozen ground, so it's not going to sink in. So they sit and stay. And one thing about water, when it sits and stays, you can get mosquitoes. Now, it seems weird that you'd get mosquitoes up here because it's so cold, but they say in Alaska that their state bird is the mosquito. So they must get them. So be prepared for that. We never had a problem with them at all, but just be prepared. So walking around in this area, one thing you do notice is the lack of trees. But it is not an ugly landscape, not at all. There are lots of grasses and bushes. They don't go very tall, maybe up to your shins. Because the ground is frozen, right? It has a little bit of soil above the frozen ground, but not enough for anything to take root. You can't really grow anything under the ground. Can't really grow anything much taller than your shins. So it's just mostly grasses and mosses and lichens and that kind of thing. But some of them get flowers, and so that's great for bird migration. So it's really a pretty landscape, but you sure miss the trees. Halliburton is the oil company that's up there, and we're talking about big oil companies, right? All right, so they've got a lot of equipment up here. They have different scientists that come up here all the time, geologists and other types of scientists. And they have different kinds of train cars, and that's what they use for their labs or for lounging or for sleeping overnight and that kind of thing. They're train cars. There is a place where you can stay up here called Dead Horse Camp. Doesn't it look sort of haunted or scary? But there are rooms available. All right, so when we landed in this area, not many people go up to this area, and I was so grateful that my friends wanted to go up there with us because that pushed us to go. And we went, there were probably about 10 of us up there. So we're having a meeting here. Actually, we're being briefed on where we can go, where we can't go, what pictures we can take, what we can't take, all those kinds of things, okay? So we're going over rules and that kind of thing. You have to be extremely careful up in this area. If the oil company should have any kind of accident, you know, it's going to stop production, it's going to hold up everything. And so they don't want that to happen. So they put a lot of restrictions into different things. If you work up here, number one, you can make a bundle of money, but you're far away from everybody you know. So it's, you know, you could do it for a while maybe. So what they do though is they have this big facility here where they bring in like the top chefs from around the world. Your food is incredible. Second thing is they bring in all kinds of entertainment as far as the movies. The movies, when they come out here in California, they've already been to Prudhoe, Alaska. Isn't that wild? So that's something different. There's pool tables and all kinds of things in here because they want you to be able to stay for at least a couple weeks at a time without going back home. So that can be hard on you. They also have restrictions as far as like cars, if there are any cars. There aren't many cars up here anyways, but if there are cars up here, they have to be regulated to only go 40 miles per hour at the fastest. Okay, again, they don't want any problems, any accidents, anything like that. There's no alcohol allowed in this area at all. In fact, when we were making our reservation to stay over, we asked if they have wine, and they said, no, there's no alcohol. Oh, okay. Can we bring our own bottle? No, there's no alcohol allowed. Oh, okay, no problem. Anyways, it was kind of funny. So this is where we stayed, into train cars. And I thought we were going to freeze that night for sure, but not at all. It's very much insulated. And then I also thought, you know, I'm kind of claustrophobic, so that could be a real problem staying in a train car. But on the other side of this train car is a glass windows. So not a problem at all. Very warm, cozy, and it was a great place to stay. And in fact, I set my alarm. We were up here in August, and I set my alarm for 3 in the morning because, you know, it's supposed to be 24 hours of light during our summer in the Northern Hemisphere. So I wanted to see, well, how light are you talking about? So what I did was set the alarm, of course, opened the door at 3 in the morning, stepped out, and it was like twilight. Do you know what twilight is like? It's like the sun has just set, but it's still light out. That's what it was like. So you could actually stand up there and read a book if you wanted to. It's that light. And then also look down here. Can you see what we're on? We're on sleds. So these train cars can be pulled during the night when you're sleeping. You can be pulled out to an area. You wake up in the morning and you're ready to work in whatever area you've taken to. This is the end of Dalton Highway. Right here it says that. Dalton Highway is if you want to drive up here. So you can drive all the way up to Prudhoe Bay. And we're going to drive back home. But driving back home from here took 2 full days, all day long. And you're mostly on gravel roads. And you have to pull over anytime a big truck is going by because they have the right of way. So it is a long, long road. But it is the haul road where you haul all kinds of supplies to get it up to this area. And in this building, it says climb the stairway to retail heaven. And up you go into this room. And it's a room probably about double the size of our classroom. And it is loaded with everything you can think of, from groceries to just different tools and things you might need, mosquito spray, face masks, all kinds of fur hats and clothing and anything, all packed into one area. It's just a fun place to look. All right, but what you come to Alaska for, of course, is the natural landscapes. So we're back out here with the glaciers. Again, cirque glaciers, mountaintop glaciers, hanging glaciers, tributaries flowing into the main glacier, moraines, arêtes, all those things we talked about back in chapter 2. One interesting thing that we did, another interesting thing, was we got to fly small airplanes and land out on a glacier. And, you know, we had already landed in a helicopter on a glacier, but this time we're going to land an airplane. There's no runway out here. So we are coming into the side of an airplane, the side of a mountain, and we're going to touch down about here and kind of glide around here, turn pretty sharply, and get spun around right here. And so that's what we're lining up to do. So once we've landed, we all climbed out and had a nice snowball fight. And you can see the different airplanes set up here, all the same type. And look at them, they're on sleds as well. Okay, that's because we're gonna land on the snow itself and glide. You can tell I love this airplane. All right, up in Prudhoe Bay, we wanted to see how this place worked. So what happens is they drill for oil. And when you drill for oil, you get natural gas as a byproduct, and you get water. You use a lot of water. So that all has to be sifted apart. And that's what these things are doing. They're separating all of that. This picture is showing, these are the buildings that people are working in. And this is one of the ways they use the natural gas that otherwise would just be wasted. And so they use it to heat the buildings. But if you look, the gas doesn't go in till about 3 feet off the ground, and that is because they cannot let anything melt this permafrost. That would be endangering the environment, and they can't do that. They're really regulated strictly up here. Another thing, when you drill for oil, hydrosulfide may be present, and this is a very dangerous gas. So when you smell a little bit of it, you can tell it's in the air, and you need to get out of there. But if you smell a little bit of it and then you don't smell it, you might think that's a good thing. But the problem is, it is kind of freezing your diaphragm and doing all kinds of things to you to where you can't breathe anymore. And so it can be very, very dangerous. So you wear vests. Anybody who works up here wears these vests that you see all over the place, and they have a monitor on them at all times. This is coming back, and what we're doing is flying over the Taiga area. Remember, we talked about tundra region being frozen ground, not much vegetation, nothing that grows taller than to your shins, very low grasses and lichens and mosses and so on. Well, in between that area and the forested area is this Taiga region. And so you do get some trees, but they're not as tall and not as dense as the trees in the forested area. But over here, you know, they're getting sparser and sparser and sparser as we go further north. Okay, so this is the transition area called the Taiga. This is when I finally found my bear. I've been up to Alaska many times. I've seen bear tracks and that kind of thing, but I'd never seen a bear in the wild. So I was very excited to see this grizzly bear. Other kinds of animals, moose that we saw right along the highway, and the dogs. They do the Iditarod race every year. And so we got to stop by and see the dogs in action and see them practicing. And then we got to pet the dogs. Look at that face, honestly. All right, I'm showing you these planes because, again, this is the way you get around. Oh, got too excited with the airplanes. These are on floats, so you can land on the water. If you have not done that, taken a small airplane up and landed on the water, you need to treat yourself. It is so fun, so very fun. These airplanes are on tundra tires. These tires are much bigger than the normal tires you'd see on an airplane. And they will land on rocky surfaces and coastal areas where it's rocky and so on. And this is my tribute to the Northern Lights. I have been up here many times and I have never seen the Northern Lights yet. So here are your red and your green Northern Lights. Again, you can tell I love Alaska. I would go again in a heartbeat. I hope you get the opportunity to go very soon. I know you'll like it. And when you're there, I want you to think of the things that we talked about. All right, take care.